Thank you, Lance Cancorla, and I won't delay the bill much longer, but I do want to thank deputies for their cooperation in dealing with this bill over the course of the past number of months. I want to thank the Water Committee for the extensive work that it did, as well as the expert group, and as well as the Joint Oireachtas Committee for the time that they have taken with this bill and with other work. I don't view this as a victory for the people. I view this as political parties and politicians trying to use this issue to score points against a government that was trying to recover an economy and recover a country, to do that for their own political gain, to the great disservice of the public that they claim to represent. And after the general election of 2016, we had to put a government together, and that meant putting stability over populism, and that's exactly what Fine Gael sought to do. And nevertheless, though, I hope that this bill then settles the matter for a number of years. We have a single utility in Irish Water, and whatever people would like to think about the good work that it already has done good work. Irish Water has proven itself in a number of instances in terms of the work that it is doing to help people who had previously been on boil water notices, to repair extensive parts of the mains and infrastructure that had not been prepared previously, and also to help in times of crisis, as they did in Storm Ophelia, in bringing people's water supplies back into line and being part of the National Emergency Coordination Group and working with the ESB to make sure that water infrastructure power was prioritised over those few days. So we have that single utility, and it is doing good work. And we do have funding certainty for Irish Water through this legislation because of the different steps that it sets out in relation to the strategic plan for Irish Water, the policy statement that will come from me, the water services charging plan, and the cost recovery mechanisms that will be involved in that. And we will have that for the years to come. And we'll also have levels of transparency that were not there previously, which are all good things, I think, to have, particularly as we look to the future, and all the things and the money that we seek to invest in Irish Water, that there be proper transparency over that investment and what will happen. And yes, Deputy Boyd Barrett is right, the spin continues. Because to claim that this is somehow and in some way water charges through the back door, but to also claim that the allowance is so generous that it wouldn't capture swimming pools and water features is quite simply a ridiculous position to hold. Nevertheless, he attempts to hold it. And to Sinn Féin and to parties of the left who say that if the Dáil changes or progresses its views in the future, I hope they're not suggesting that they will stand against the democratic decision of the Dáil in the future if it makes that decision. Because this legislation clearly puts that decision, when it comes to the 1.7 allowance on top of the average household allowance, puts that decision to the Dáil. So I'm not quite sure if Sinn Féin and deputies of the left are saying that they will stand against a democratic decision of the Dáil. But the sentiment is clear from what they say. When Deputy O'Snuddick asks why Fine Gael would not go into power with Sinn Féin, it is because of the undemocratic tendencies that they suggest in the contributions that they make. And in relation to the attempt for privatisation that deputies have claimed, that was never the case here. And it's not the case today. It's now essentially impossible because of the arrangements that are in place for Irish Water and its funding. And I have no problem with public ownership, and I have no problem with the referendum on public ownership. But we need to make a decision soon, because it is coming to the committee, Deputy Collins' bill on public ownership, if we think that this referendum is a priority over other referenda that people want us to hold, for example, in relation to the 8th Amendment. That's a decision that we have to make, and we have to be responsible about that in coming to a decision on that. But again, I have no problem about a referendum in the future on public ownership, but there are other referenda that I believe are more important to the people in this republic. Once this bill passes both houses, we'll be able to begin the process of issuing refunds to as many households as possible. Regrettably, that will not be possible to get them to all households before Christmas. And let's be honest about the delays that we have seen with this bill as it has come through the House. Let's look at the number of speakers who contributed at second stage. Let's look at the speeches that they repeated at second stage, at report stage, at committee stage, and again in their concluding remarks today. Let's look at the number of amendments that were put down and refused, and resubmitted again. And let's look at the substance of some of those amendments, as Deputy Cowan has pointed out, and what they were really trying to achieve if it were not a delay. And let's look at some of the questions which I've already answered, which were asked of me again today. And Deputy O'Brien, you can go back and look on the record from the House yesterday, the questions that I answered in relation to the role of the independent regulator and the role that they will have here. Maybe Sinn Féin does not support an independent regulator, we do. They will answer those questions in terms of the actual amount. It will be a metric charge for those with a metre, for those without a metre. I imagine it will be a range charge. But that will be for the independent regulator to decide in consultation. And there is plenty of time to decide that, because, as we all know, even though you try to take these measures out of the legislation, there will be a 12-month period beginning in January, whereby we will review the water consumption of households. And following that 12-month period, they will then be issued with a notice, where they have 6 months to bring their usage down below an allowance which allows for 8 people in a household. But if they have more than 4, they can apply for even more than that, for individual people. And if they have a medical need, they can apply for a waiver. So again, to suggest that this is water charges through the back door and this somehow leaves something open or something left to be done is a complete nonsense. I've already begun my engagement with the Federation of Group Water Schemes, and I will continue that once this bill passes. I have to say it's a pleasure to deal with that group because they know what it costs and what it means to have to provide clean water treatment facilities and clean drinking water to households. We will, as a government, continue to prioritise investment in our network and in the future of this country in terms of its water services, and we'll continue to conserve water and we'll continue to improve that water services network into the future because of the importance it has, not just for all of the businesses and all of the people in this republic, but the importance that it says for investing in this vital resource, an investment that wasn't made in the past. I will accept that. But in the past, when it came to prioritising investment, because water pipes and water infrastructure is below ground, it isn't as sexy perhaps as hospitals and schools, but it is just as important. We will continue to make that a priority, and this bill will allow us to do that. And I commend this bill to the House. That's Garcola.